Hit it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the new episode of Peak. Tonight, we are peeking into the life of Miss Mia Inez Adams. We catch up with her on her Hawaii vacation trip, and she's going to give us a little insight about how she feels about real life, how people react to her, and can they clock? Can they clock? And how she is dealing with love, relationships, because Hawaii is a vacation spot. Plus, we want to talk about the controversy in Hawaii now with all of the wildfires. And she's going to tell us what she saw. And I just want to say, welcome to the show today, fabulous lady.
Thank you so much for having me back to talk with you again. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So how was your vacation? What made you decide you wanted to go to Hawaii?
Well, I visit the islands semi regularly. I have a son who lives there. I typically go in October, but I went this year because he stated that he never gets me for my birthday. And my birthday was January 25th. So I flew out on the 24th to spend my birthday with him. And I was able to bring one of my girlfriends, my sister, Sassy O'Hara, with me for her first time ever trip to the Hawaiian Islands. So that's what prompted the trip. Was my birthday.
Okay. Wonderful. Now, the reason I do the show is because we're here to educate and inspire, and you are a great inspiration in our community, and you're an amazing performer. And I really enjoy talking to you because you inspire me to just be better at this. And the fact that you are always current, you're keeping up with what's going on with the Joneses. And this is a good thing. And I really like the fact that you go out into society like normal, which is something that a lot of our community in general should do. And show the world that we like to vacation. We like nice things. We like nice food. We like to interact. We want to be a part of society and contribute to society, which we do in many ways that they don't give us credit for. But the fact that you are traveling the world as yourself, this is an amazing thing.
Well, for me, I don't have a choice but to be myself, so I travel as I am. Traveling while trans can be daunting at times, depending upon where you are with your transition as far as documents are concerned. Not what you look like physically, but what you have documented. There are those of us who've had their name changes and their gender markers changed, and there are those of us who haven't. So that can be a little daunting when you're traveling while trans, is what I'm going to call it. It's always interesting to go through the scanner at the airport. Sometimes the scanner goes off, sometimes it doesn't. I've even posted on Facebook some funny things that have happened. I was stopped one time by an older Caucasian lady, and she whispered in my ear, "I know why you were stopped." So, of course, panic sets in. And then she goes, "It must be your time of the month. The scanner can pick up on iron in your blood." I just laughed it off. Another time I went through and they said I had an abnormality in the crotch area and they needed to check it. So once again, an older, this time Asian lady, she squatted down and she says, "I'm gonna run my hands." They tell you the thing, and she runs her hands across the front of me, and I was traveling au natural, and she decided to push and say, "Well, what is this? What is this?" And I whispered, "Penis." She goes, "No penis. You don't have penis. No lady have penis." And she's just screaming this in front of everybody. I'm just looking like, and I've had other girlfriends explain, the dauntingness that can happen and sometimes the funny things that can occur when traveling while trans. But I would say never let anything deter you from seeing more of the world.
hmm
It's
Now,
ours to explore.
what I like about it when I was watching you and you were showing a lot of the spots that you guys were going about, the your lunches or brunches, and the fact that you were actually in the ocean as a trans woman, in a swimsuit as a trans woman, and no one looking at you twice was something quite interesting. And I watch the surroundings, and I think that that is part of it. The fact that you were living normal, so people didn't see that, that difference that you would, like you said, sometimes see depending on what stage of transition most trans women are in.
And
And
I will say this, I got complimented multiple times on my swimsuit selection, by women, which is always great, women upholding women, and, a
Mhm,
few men commented as well, which is to be expected. I'm kind of bodacious in the body.
mhm,
But I think what people see, especially when they look at me, I think they just see my comfortability, so they don't think anything out of the way. I know there's a great portion of trans women who like to live the stealth life. I just live the
mhm,
life that I have. And I think when I present myself in public, no makeup, no nothing, people look at me and they see auntie, grandmother, mother. So I think
mhm.
people look at me and don't give me a second glance. Whereas I
Well,
think sometimes some of my other sisters, be them younger or older, I think they put so much effort into their meticulous makeup and meticulous hair, that sometimes people look at them and think, wait a minute, they take that second look and then they start noticing things. Oh, that's a tall lady. Oh,
mhm.
it's got high, big breasts. They must be, implanted. Her, this looks this, that looks that. And then they start to figure things out. Whereas I think
Mhm.
I'm more of a plain Jane, so I just kind of float through society.
Well, that's what I like about being me, because when I'm not all done up, I like the fact that I can melt into society
Well,
and
I
just
like how
live.
you look today for sure. You look like someone's auntie today for sure. So,
Oh, well, look at this here. Oh, I tried to do it. She told me to try to keep it down, try not to do the drag thing, which I'm used to. I want the girls to understand that I've been around this for 36 years. So I
uh,
understand that you have to relate to the women that you are talking to. They
mm,
need to see somebody looking back at them that looks like them or resembles them or acts like them. That way they can be comfortable to do what they do,
and
to
I
be
think
who
that's
they
the
are.
important. And that's the importance of your doing interviews and shows like this, because oftentimes trans women were portrayed in the media one way. And I think that's why we often get approached in a sexual connotation because we're over sexualized in the media. Some
Mhm,
guys will say, when you come over, you're going to be dressed. I'm like, dressed as what? I mean, it's not Halloween. What are you asking about? You know, they're like, were you going to be dressed as a woman? I'm like, well, I live my life every day as one. So what? And then I realized it's not a connection for me because they're looking for a fantasy version. They're looking for the porn version of a trans woman. They want the long
mhm,
painted nails, the hair, the makeup, the tight costume, the corseted waist. And that's not what I'm giving. That's not who I am. That's a
mhm,
fantasy that I can create on stage for you, but it doesn't follow
mhm.
me off.
Mhm. Well, I like the fact that you're just so open and honest. That's why I love talking to you, because you just make sense. And it's something that a lot of trans women should learn how to live their life a lot like the way you do yours. And the
I
fact
think it
that
comes. I think it comes from. I'm sorry. I think it comes from an expectation. I think that some trans women think that people expect something from them versus just being who and what they are. As a person of
Mhm,
color, representing, Black American women, I know sometimes people turn heads when they see Black women in makeup because it's not customary to see Black women in a full beat. You know what I'm saying? You know,
mhm,
and when you present that, you might get some looks. But I don't think that we owe the world anything other than who we are honestly and at our core. So I'm always going to stay true to myself and be my plain ordinary self.
mhm. I find it rather strange. I have a conversation coming up with a bunch of Black ladies in a few weeks here. And I said something in the interview about the fact that Black women have always not really like Black trans women. But today's society, they're trying to look like drag queens or trans women with the eyelashes, the BBLs, the outrageous clothes. and then they don't want men to call them drag queens, but now they're looking a lot like drag queens or trans women that would be performing.
And that's the truth. I've had this conversation with multiple girlfriends. There was a time that we wanted to emulate looking like, our beautiful sisters. And now it's like they're wanting more to look like us. I think because of the way that some trans women are exalted and put in a certain pedestal, that it's the look is what's desired. They want to have the look, but they don't want to have the life. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I've seen women be insulted that someone thought they were trans, and I've seen women feel, like, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but they would feel like, "Oh my God, you thought I was trans? I look that pretty that you thought I could be a trans woman?" So it comes in
Mhm.
in both hands. I think there's always going to be a disconnect. Well, not always, but I think there's often a disconnect because people don't know how to express themselves. And when I've had the opportunity to speak with Black women, um, I often said, no one's trying to, because I think people think that we're trying to compete with women for mates, spouses, whatever. And
Mhm.
to me, or for me, a man who wants to be with a trans woman wants to be with a trans woman. He can be
Mhm.
attracted to women in general, but he wants to be with a trans woman for a particular reason. And so we're not uh, battling you out for men. We're not, in competition, in my opinion. I often like to tell Black women, I admire you so much that I became you. So
Mhm.
I'm here to be in the fight with you. You know, um, a lot of people would say that in the hierarchy of the human race, the Black woman's, the Black woman's on the bottom of the pile. So why would
Mhm.
I make the choice to move myself to the bottom of the pile? And the reason I say I do make that choice is because I know I want to be strong enough with the being on this planet that supports everything else. And that's the Black.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
strongest person I've ever known in my life have always been Black women. That's physically, mentally, spiritually. And that's what I
Mhm.
want.
Well, that it's wonderful that you are a great example of and like I keep saying, an inspiration to us all because you've been there and you're still there and you're still educating and helping. And this is an amazing thing. And so hopefully somewhere down the line, the young people will watch this video 100 years from now and say, she really made sense. She's talking the way I feel, how I live my life. And this is what we want people to see, that we live everyday lives just like them. They just try to, like you say, sexualize it. And this is something that, yes, we have sex, but don't you have sex as well?
Yeah, I think that if television and media showed more aspects of people in general, and I hate to break things down upon racial lines, but I think that's the easiest way to explain it. You can turn on the television show or on the TV right now, and by chance, you'll just flipping channels, you'll come across depictions of Caucasian families on pretty much every channel. And then after
Hmm.
a while, when you get to certain stations like UPN or whatnot, you might come across a Black family. But then again, very rarely do you come across Asian families. Do you come across Native American families? I don't think I've ever seen a depiction of a Native American family ever on a television show.
Hmm.
you know and then you can get, break it down, to, just anything, Jewish families, so on and so forth. So I think that being a creative person such as myself and being able to travel and express myself through travel and taking pictures of things to express that, I wish that I could hopefully inspire uh, those who write and produce those shows to produce more
Hmm.
shows that involve people like me doing very ordinary things that everyone else does, because it's not extraordinary. I didn't do anything, that moved mountains. I went online, I ordered a flight, I flew over to Hawaii to visit my son and stayed in his home, walked around his neighborhood, got to see mangoes on trees that were this big and avocados that
Oh.
weighed 2 pounds. And no one thought anything. I mean, everyone was, hi, how are you today, ma'am? Every Uber driver. And it's not about being respectful. I think they just called me what they saw. I often tell people that
Mhm.
sometimes people discover you're trans, they all of a sudden say, "Well, what do I call you, ma'am or sir?" I'm like, "Well, what? Call me what you see." You know?
Mhm.
So I
You
think
know,
that
that Go ahead, I'm sorry.
if we're able to see more positive lifestyles will understand. Quickly, I'll say this. It reminds me of when the Cosby Show came out, and my Caucasian friends and some Black families were saying it was unrealistic. And I'm like, but why was it unrealistic? It was realistic for me, coming from an upper middle class family whose family members, worked as nurses or doctors or lawyers or were in the military, you know. But yet when they do a depiction of, say, a family being depicted on the movies Friday After Next, well, that's realistic. That wasn't realistic for
Mhm.
me. I didn't grow up in the hood or the ghetto or whatever kind of, negative connotation people want to say. So if there's any producers that are ever watching this, hey, if you want to make a movie or a reality show about trans women being trans women, not involved in the glamour world, not involved in drag, but just day to day, everyday life, I'm available.
Mhm. It's funny. I love watching the show Red Fox, and he did an episode where he was having a toothache and he had to go to the dentist. And
Hmm.
he the man that came out to fix his teeth was black. I mean, was white. And he was asking him all kinds of questions, this and that and this and that. And he didn't want him working on his teeth. He says, I want somebody that's been in the business a long time. And in other words, he was trying to say that he wasn't qualified to work on his mouth. And he wanted the head of the surgery department to look at his mouth and everything. I'm sorry, the person was black. So they sent in a white assistant to overall access him. And then he says, well, I don't think that I'm qualified. After looking at the CT, he said, I don't think I'm qualified to fix your tooth. I will call the head of surgery to do it. And in comes the same black man that came out the first time to look at his tooth. And he just sort of went, oh, how you doing, brother? It
I
was
think
a
it's I
very
think it
funny.
boils down to perception. I'm thankful that my parents taught me that we could be anything we wanted to be. And the one
Mhm,
thing I can remember my dad saying as when I was a young child was never be the stereotype. You can be anything you
mhm,
want to be, but never be the stereotype. Never be what they want you to be or what they expect you to be. Always, go past their expectations, whoever they were, you know.
mhm.
And that's what I've always championed myself to be, more than your expectation.
Mhm. So, on that note, how was your vacation? How was it overall?
My vacation is always lovely. We did a lot of outdoor things. There were a few times we just stayed in the house and laid in bed and watched Netflix and just vacationed or just, commiserated together. My sister and I, it was our first trip there. If you've never been to Hawaii, go. It's a unique experience in and of itself. From the little things, just from the trees, the
Mhm.
flora and fauna that you see, they just don't exist anywhere else. Um, my sister was out on the patio one day or on the veranda on the balcony, and she's like, "Girl, come here, girl, come here, come here, come." And she was excited. And so I ran to see what she was. She goes, "Girl, look." And I said, "What?" She goes, "You don't see them parrots." I say, "Yeah, it's just parrots flying around here." I say, "Well, parrots are their natural birds, like how in Texas y'all have crows and in Phoenix we have pigeons. You know, have you noticed that you don't see any crows here?" She's like, "Oh, I didn't notice that." I said, "Because their normal birds are parrots and macaws, and they have a variety of pigeon and other birds that are just normal and natural to the islands. And being that the islands are
Mhm,
so far from the mainland, those birds aren't, built to fly, thousands of miles to get to the next place over. So they're just here." And
mhm.
she noticed it when we're driving around the city, ivies and plants that probably people have in their houses right now, those leaves are 2 foot wide and 4 feet long. And it's the
Oh,
exact same ivy that you would probably have growing in your house, but out there it's just outdoor vegetation. It's literally a lush tropical oasis. And just little things
mhm.
like that were interesting. Coming across, she'd never seen mangoes on the tree. She had never seen a macadamia nut tree before, you know,
Oh,
and and people's neighborhoods, they had macadamias that were just all on the ground, and people weren't, cars were running over them. They're not trying out there and pick them up. That's an expensive nut. And I explained to her it's no different than in Texas when people have pecans all over the ground they're not picking up. you know?
Mhm.
It's just a different situation. So it was fun to share my version of paradise with her and for her to find her very own version of paradise herself.
Well, I always say the good thing about all of this is the fact that trans women now are free to go out into society, to try and work, try to do things that they've been looking to do for centuries. Work, integrate into society, whether or not it's good or bad, you got to get out there. You got to get out
I
there.
think for so long as a trans woman, people were suppressed to living in a particular lifestyle and or way. Being concerned about your travel documents or your identification documents in order to um, get those jobs to work. A lot of times, a lot of trans women were relegated to either sex work or being an entertainer or both because that was all that was
Mhm.
available to them. You could look exactly like Diana Ross, but if your name was Dwayne, you weren't necessarily going to get hired someplace, and you didn't have
That's
the
true.
resources to change your name legally back then. You didn't know how that worked. So therefore, you just lived and died on the fringes, honestly, of the LGBTQI plus community because we were not always accepted as part of that community. I think the last time I spoke with you, I referenced it as a trans woman, we are the unicorn. We are not
Mhm.
really accepted into the gay community and we're not really accepted into the straight community or the community at large. So we oftentimes congregate amongst ourselves. And I think that has a lot to do with how houses are made or drag mothers are made. And I'm the matriarch of a drag house as well as a home in general for those who fall by the wayside.
Mhm. Now, I want to say this in closing. Um, I'm working on the show, a new show now, where I want to talk to trans women about the end of their lives, end of our lives, and how people perceive you when they see you, whether you're being cremated or whether you're being, seen in a casket. Now, I went to a funeral, and this entertainer was trans, but they buried her as Michael Jackson. I understood the entertainment part, but I didn't understand why they did that. So I'm working on the show so we can talk about the end of trans lives, how they go, how they leave this earth, and how their families or their friends or their community perceives them to look when they see them in their final, resting.
I think that people want to see you as you were and as they know you. Um, most of the time when people in the community see me, they see me typically at a bar at a show. So I am dolled
Mhm.
up. I am looking glamorous to them. I've experienced multiple of my trans sisters passing, and due to legality or legal reasons, their families, who they've been oftentimes estranged from, are the only people who can legally come back and claim their bodies. And
Mhm.
for whatever reason, I've seen them shave their heads, bury them as men, so on and so forth. So I think what we need to do while we're awake is take better note of our final thoughts and wishes. With a living will, which you can do through
Mhm.
most LGBTQI plus community centers, will help you do a living will. You can do that for most places free of charge. You can put someone in charge of your home, your apartment, your bank accounts, your drag, your
Mhm.
anything that you own, so that your family, you know by blood, can't just come in and disturb what you've gotten. I've had friends who've been married in partnerships for 20 years prior to marriage becoming legal, and one spouse dies, their family comes in and shuts the other person out who spent 20, 30 years with them, you know and now
Mhm.
they're destitute because the family's like, well, it was in his name, it's his things. So I
Mhm.
think it's very important for anyone, trans or otherwise, anyone, to make final decisions for yourself if you don't want them to be made by someone who you may not be um, in a loving relationship with, as far as family is concerned.
We're going to have that conversation down the road because I think it's really important for us to. My agent, she kept talking to me about that, and it kind of bugged me after I was listening to it. She was saying, I was like, "You're so right. We need to do that show. We need to cover this and talk to and get the information out there and see what we can do to try to inform people how important this really is." I just want to say it was great talking to you today. You have made my day. And
You have
this was
always been mine. I love the light that you give, and you always have the love in your heart that comes across through the screen. I'm looking forward to the day that we're face to face and I get to hug your neck and sample some of your
um,
good cooking and maybe let you sample some of mine, and we can just sit and fellowship and just really continue our friendship even further. You
yeah.
are a
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mia. That means so much to me. It's great when I say, the internet is good and bad, but it's created a connection for us now that we didn't have before. That I think we can really make a difference if we really try.
Agreed. And I want to say this too. I know you're getting ready to close out. Anytime you want to travel the world, I want you to know that I have a passport, I have frequent flyer miles, and I have a lot of comps, and I'm ready to travel with you. However,
All
you
right.
feel comfortable traveling.
Well, I don't talk too much about it, but you can tell that I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready slowly but surely. We're
I think it would
almost
be
there.
I think it would be fun for you and I have a few other girlfriends as well that are some are trans and some are not. But I think it would be interesting to travel to say the UK, and then we go
Mhm.
out, say in our Tina drag for a day and just travel as the traveling Tinas is what I want to call it.
I really wanted to do, and when Tina first passed away, I really wanted us to do a worldwide Tina, like TikTok thing,
Hmm.
TikTok thing, but I couldn't get the Tina impersonators on board. I think because people were taking it too serious. I don't mind anybody doing Tina because I do what I do and I'm comfortable with it. And I love seeing other people do Tina. For me, there's nothing, it's not an issue. But maybe down the road we'll try to do that. But that's a great idea. I have so many. Well, we've been talking, me and her. We have so many ideas for some new reality shows that we're going to try to get moving. And but right now we're trying to do this, and so
Hmm.
we will stay focused on this.
And more
And
power to you and more success to you. And I hope it grows and you're able to get more personalities and people on to share their stories because, as you've always stated, it's important.
mhm. And I don't, and they keep asking me, I why don't I put the bigger celebrities on the show? And I ask certain people, but I don't want. I'm trying to say this in a good way. I don't want the RuPaul stars on my show because I think that it's not that it's irrelevant. It's just that it has its place, but this is ground roots. And I want my show is about ground roots. What's been missing in our lives, what we need, what is important to the community. We can sashay and Shantae all day. We've been doing that for years and got nothing. This now time to start talking about the real issues and the real things that we need. And we need to address these issues, period.
I
We
agree.
can dance. We can dance all night and put wigs and makeup on and be all colorful and all that. But after 10 minutes, that's over. What are you going to go home to? You got no food, no place to live, no
Well,
health
I
care.
am thankful that you are letting voices that weren't always chosen to be heard. But I also want to give a shout out to my niece Asia O'Hara, who was just on the talk yesterday.
Mhm.
She's one of those girls who always has a hand back to bring forward those of us who didn't have the hand offered to us in the first place. So I definitely want to shout her out. She's doing great
Mhm.
work and she's utilizing her platform to move us all forward,
That's
trans, black, otherwise. She's moving us
mhm.
all forward. I thank her for that. So, not all the Drag Race girls are not utilizing their platform to the best of their ability. She's doing a great job, and
Mhm.
I appreciate my niece.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, it's just that I get a lot of that. We get a lot of those emails. Why don't I put, some of the queens on from RuPaul's Drag Race and stuff? I said because they don't have a platform what's in line with what we are doing. We're doing groundwork. We can do entertainment all day, but we're not getting anywhere with the entertainment. People are buying tickets but going home and saying, "Oh, that was a great show," but the next day they see you. Oh, that's that man. That's that. And this is stuff we have to change. This perception of fantasy and illusion and entertainment to reality, which we need to be living in,
Hmm.
because we know a lot of the girls sleep on mattresses on the floor, have no health care, have no jobs. And like you said, their lives are around sex work or entertainment at night stuff. And we have to realize we're now moving into real life.
Yeah,
And we want people to see that we are part of real life and we are willing to work. We
yeah.
pay taxes. We want to go to school. We want to fit into society like everybody else. And I am not here to save the world. I'm just here to make sure that our voices are heard.
But I'm sure that your voice is saving someone by showing the reality that we're going through. Like you said, we want to
Mhm.
work hard, but we also want to play hard. And that's why
Yeah,
I love to be able to take trips to Hawaii or to Key West or to Italy or to anywhere else I want to go because I've worked hard and I've earned the opportunity to travel to those places and reward myself.
that was amazing. She said, work hard and play hard. Yes, I love that. All right. So I want to say thank you to Mia and Nez Adams today for being on the show. This was a great conversation about life, love, and what are you doing for Valentine's Day?
I'm going to hang out with my Pookie Bear. And then the 15th through the 19th, I will be in Boston with my girlfriend, Misery McCrae, twirling and bucking and twirling for the kids. Not really that much,
Mhm.
but just standing, walking in a circle. And then I'll be back. And then I'm getting ready March 10th. I'm competing here in the Valley for Miss Phoenix Pride. It was important for me to do it
Oh,
this year as an elder, as a person of color, and as a trans person. These are often things that are not wanted in our society. And I want to be able to show these kids that I still have value. We still have value. And we can still be of service
that's
and
right.
slay you in a pageant if need be.
All right. I want to say to our audience out there, we had Mia Inez Adams on today, and it was just a fabulous conversation. And if you missed it, check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Check us out on all of the social media platforms. From Keeping Up with the Joneses here. Um, and I just want to say, have an amazing day, and thank you so much. And until next time, my friends. Have an amazing week, y'all. Good
Love you,
night.
Seth.
Thank you. You love you too, girl.